Assalamu alaikum, comrades and friends. On behalf of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, we express our deepest condolences to the family of Hassan Nasrallah, all the fighters and members of Hezbollah, the axis of resistance, and all of us opposed to imperialism, colonial genocide, and oppression. We have lost a hero, a warrior against imperialism. His assassination, as we know, was accompanied by Israel's mass murder and acts of terror against the Lebanese people, coming on the back of its daily terror and slaughter of the Palestinian people, which continues up to today and has been going on for nearly a year. Such barbarism the world has not seen in a very long time. Nasrallah's assassination follows many others of our top leaders in the axis of resistance. Just recently, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed by a rocket aimed at the residence he was staying in the heart of Tehran. While we cherish their martyrdom, we must realize and accept and acknowledge that we cannot afford to lose any more leaders of the resistance, especially of the caliber of the ones we have lost. We are facing a powerful enemy. This is undeniable. An enemy which dominates the world and has all the resources. We must recognize also that we are living in a very, very dangerous period that threatens the existence of the Palestinian people, millions of people in the Middle East, but also threatens the entire humanity. We must realize that we are in a period where capitalism is in a serious crisis and has been for the past 2 decades. And the continued dominance of US imperialism of the world is also under threat, particularly from China. And it's these conditions that are leading to such extremities that we face, where our enemies are so desperate that they think nothing of killing hundreds of thousands of people in the way that they have. As some speakers have said, this is a sign, an act of desperation. US imperialism is completely intolerant of any country, any government that asserts its independence or its national interests, completely intolerant of it. In previous decades, they were. Their biggest enemies were those who were labeled as communist or socialist. Now we live in a different era. So it's that intolerance that's leading them to do what they're doing. And let's be clear that US imperialism is fully behind, if not leading, what Israel is doing. We can be under no illusion about US imperialism, and we can never seek any conciliation with them. So any government that defies US imperialism will feel its full wrath. This is why we still have severe sanctions against Cuba, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, Russia, and China. And what we can see from all those governments, in many ways, they're different. They're different politically, they're different ideologically, they're different ethnically, racially, religion, whatever. But what they all have in common is that they are asserting their national interest, which is in some way opposed to the interest of US imperialism. So imperialism will do anything in its power to overthrow such governments. And we can see what's happening in Europe as well, with a proxy war of Ukraine against Russia. And Russia has got very little in common with Lebanon or Iran. And that is not to say that we endorse what Russia does or believe what the Russian regime does. We differ with them in many ways. But where we stand in common with Russia, Iran, North Korea, is our opposition to imperialism and global capitalism. Since the formation and establishment of Israel in 1948, it has been the extension of US-led imperialism in the Middle East. And of course, we know that the main interest of Europe and US imperialism has been the oil, the petroleum of the Middle East, a valuable resource up to this day and continues. This is their main interest in supporting Israel unconditionally. And the US is very clear, it supports the genocide of the Palestinians. Let us not be fooled by their spokespersons and Biden. So let's be clear that it's working hand in glove with Israel to destroy the Palestinian people, to destroy the resistance, and by destroying hundreds of thousands of lives in Palestine, Lebanon, Yemen, and soon, let's be clear, and soon, Iran. It wants to force the surrender of those countries, those governments. It wants to force the resistance to surrender in the same way that the Native Americans did over 100 years ago. No different. It wants complete surrender. The point I want to make, which I made some weeks ago on a TV show, is that Iran has no alternative but to go on an all-out war against Israel. It has no alternative. There can be no accommodation, no appeasement with Israel. And I'm not a warmonger. I'm a person of peace, and so is the PSC. But for me, what I see, this is inevitable. And Iran and the axis of resistance can no longer accept what's been happening, the killing, the assassinations, the massacres. It has to respond more than in kind. And as I said, this is exactly the case of Russia and Ukraine. It's not, we all know, it's not only about Ukraine and Russia. This is a war by Western imperialism against Russia, and to take over and to have regime change and to control the resources of Eastern Europe. That's what it's all about. So let us not waste the blood of our martyrs. Israel and imperialism must be defeated. For the sake of the Palestinians, for the sake of the people of the Middle East, and for the sake of the people of the entire world. Humanity is at stake here. We know the weapons that these people have. Lastly, I want to end off, I want to endorse the points made by the Al-Jama'ah speaker. What we have in our power here, at least, is to force our government to apply boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. It has refused to do that for a very long time, and it's been going on too long. So we want to call on everyone to support us, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, to be part of the campaign to force this government to apply boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against Israel immediately. Thank you.